Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to DABCC Radio. You know, someday I'm going to have an episode of just bloopers. That would be funny, listening to me trying to say intros and closings and just the things I say in the middle of these podcasts. But anyway, we have a great show for you today. We really do. And as you can tell, I'm in a good mood, and we have a great episode. So what more can I ask for? We have another Citrix Ready episode. And what I love about these episodes, or what I love about working with Citrix Ready, is that they bring me great solutions and great stuff to talk about. So we have UniPrint.net on the line, and we are going to talk with another one of their customers. And I love these podcasts too, because we get to hear the customer perspective, why they did it, you know, what they did, how they did it, what it solved, you know, the who, what, when, where, why. So, you know, I can ramble all day long, but let's get to this. Here's my interview with Citrix Ready, UniPrint.net, and WestRock. And we're going to talk about printing. Okay, guys, we had a fun time today setting up the audio, but we have it all set up. I think everything sounds good. We are ready to rock. So I'm excited to have UniPrint back on the call with us today. And, of course, we have a customer with us, which is always fun to chat with, because we get to hear things from the endpoint, you know, from the customer's view, which is, at the end of the day, always the most important. So I love when UniPrint does this for me, for us. Bringing on a customer. So with no further ado, let's do this thing. So as always, my first question is, who are you, and what do you tell us about a little bit about yourself? So let's go around the horn. Let's bring on the new guy, our customer for today, Matt. Matt, who are you, and what do you do?
Thanks, Doug. My name is Matt Milando. I currently work for a company called WestRock out of Norcross, Georgia. I manage the integration team. Been with WestRock for over 8 years now. Came to WestRock by way of California, but also came to California by way of Toronto. I'm originally a Canadian native and left for California as a teacher. And then while I was there, moved more and more into technology until I became the manager of the technology department for the school district there. And then made my way back east and found myself at WestRock. So that's where I am today.
Very cool. You know, the whole school, IT in schools is an interesting thing. Before I came to Citrix years ago and got into the, Citrix full-time business, I was a consultant in Iowa, and I spent 2 years dealing with schools, actually, upgrading their networks and fixing problems and bringing in Citrix and things like that. And it's really interesting to see how the schools function. It's a podcast within itself, but we won't go there. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a podcast within itself. Sagnik, can you tell us, thanks for coming back on. Can you tell us real briefly, who are you and what do you do over at Citrix Ready?
Hey, Doug, glad to be back. I'm Sagnik. I work as a technical marketing in Citrix Ready with ecosystem partners such as UniPrint.
Perfect. And, of course, our buddy Arron from UniPrint. Who are you and what do you do over at UniPrint?
I'm sort of in charge of the UniPrint. They sometimes call me the founder of UniPrint. We started the company in year 2000, roughly, released our first piece of UniPrint software in year 2000. Been helping people to print from the server-based computing world at the beginning, and now VDI, cloud, mobile, secure printing, anything to do with printing is us. And I'm in charge. I'm very technical, basically in charge of the product development side of UniPrint.
I love you said two things I loved. One, you said server-based computing. You had me at server-based computing. That's all you had to say was server-based computing. I love that phrase. And it's still server-based computing to me, right? XenApp is still the powerhouse.
It is. I agree with you. It's just the term keeps changing on us, you know.
Yeah. That's because we bring new people into this industry that don't understand what they're doing. No. And then
old term and a new term, you know.
Yeah, and then I'm sort of technical. You're very technical, Arron. You're very technical. So, Arron, real quick, before we get too far along with the podcast, I want to ask you for the guys that aren't familiar with UniPrint, can you tell us about the company and what you guys are trying to accomplish? Maybe a little bit about some things that make you special, stuff like that.
Yeah, UniPrint is founded in year 1999, I would say. That's when we were a company that did a lot of Citrix resale integration. And then we find that back then, Citrix really had a problem there in terms of printing. So we created a solution called UniPrint and released the product in year 2000. And UniPrint basically is a universal printer driver solution. I know now the universal printer driver term has been used everywhere, but by then we're the first one that uses that term. It basically takes all your print job, turns into PDF file, and then we transport the PDF files and then let you print locally. And at that point, Citrix is famous for remote access, and people are working from home, great, but cannot print to their desktop printer. So that's when we started the whole UniPrint exercise. Now we do take UniPrint and then take it, expand the field to do network printing. We also support now VDI, cloud, mobile, secure printing. We had auditing module. We have statistic module. We basically eliminate printing problem in the remote in printing, period. I mean, before it was all Citrix VDI. Now we do desktop, a normal desktop user, mobile user. So anything to do with printing, we're trying to solve. How's that? Does that give you a good summary?
That's perfect, Arron. That is perfect. And I'm going to ask you some more questions later on in the podcast about some of the things you mentioned, because things that we haven't talked about, I believe, on a podcast with you recently. So,
okay.
Sagnik, I have. Are you on the line still? You there?
Hey, I'm there. Yeah.
Perfect. So I have a couple questions for you also. So working with UniPrint, can you describe that experience and your thoughts on the Citrix UniPrint partnership relationship?
Absolutely. So UniPrint is a compatible solution with our printer solution, and printing is essential piece in the overall user experience of a user in a virtualized environment. And we will be hearing from Matt as well about all the issues that we face. But we have heard printing to be a pain point from long time now. And having a solution like UniPrint is a great marriage, I would say. And partners like UniPrint are an important part of a strategy to build an open and flexible ecosystem that meets a wide variety of customer needs. So I think UniPrint and Citrix Ready go along very far and very deep.
That's perfect. And then you're the guy that does all the, or not all the, but a lot of the validations of the solutions that go into the Citrix Ready catalog. Can you talk about UniPrint's solution working with Citrix and what that process was like? If you ran into any gotchas, if you had to talk to Arron, anything like that, what was that process like?
Yeah, so it's a very straightforward process because UniPrint has been working with Citrix for quite some time, and they know the intricacies in and out. So working with UniPrint was a very smooth sail, I would say. Basically, they have an excellent management interface. The technology is very sleek. Session performance, for example, stopped getting affected by printing volumes, which used to be multiple times customers used to raise it as a concern. And even when the multiple users simultaneously is printing large documents. So So problems such as that was resolved, and the printing has become very fast, reliable, and secure. So usually we verify the printing solution through a demo, and where our Arron goes through, folks like Arron and technical folks usually go through the new technologies that they have, new features that they have brought into the software. And lately they have even started supporting pen mobile. So yeah, it's a complete experience. I would really say that they've been in the space for so long time now. They're kind of like the Bruce Lee in printing, having practiced one kick 1,000 times rather than 1,000 different kicks practiced as one.
Awesome. Let's talk to the customer now and see what he has to say. Can you tell us a bit about, I'm excited, like I said, I'm excited to have a customer on. It's always a neat, viewpoint, right? We a lot of times we bring the vendors on, they preach to us about all the great things they do, but, coming from your perspective, this is the proof, right? So I'm excited to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Can you tell us about your company a bit? And then what you guys are doing, your challenges, things like that. And then, of course, why did you consider UniPrint?
Sure. So WestRock is a manufacturing company. We're worldwide. We're in the corrugated business with paper products and stuff. Originally, we were faced with a challenge in our terminal server environment. Before we even moved to Citrix, we were faced with multiple terminal services, and those servers having multiple printers. And the challenge with a company our size, we've got over 40,000 endpoint devices, PCs and laptops and tablets, and there's no standard for printers. So depending on whatever facility you go to, you could have HP, you could have Brother, you could, any different type of printing devices. And in our old world, our pre-UniPrint world, we were trying to manage these printers across these terminal services. These terminal servers, and it became a challenge. Not just for my team, which is the integration team, which handles Citrix and the terminal server department, but also for our administrators and our help desk, because they were facilitating so many print support calls. And we agreed as a team that we needed a solution, a single solution that would resolve all of these printer issues, and that's where we look to UniPrint to be that solution. We considered UniPrint. We considered several different solutions, I guess, but UniPrint stood out among the rest of them simply because of the product itself was phenomenal for us and what it did for us. But more so, it was also the support that we got from UniPrint and their willingness to work with us. That's key in this world we find ourselves in now. More often than not, I find support lacking from companies and from vendors that we've worked with. They don't want to support us, or it's not their problem. And even early on at the onset with UniPrint, when we had them do demos for us and we got engaged with them, they listened to us, they listened to the problems that we had, and were willing to work with us in getting around some of those problems. But for the most part, their solution hit everything that we needed, and that was one of the biggest reasons why we decided to go with UniPrint.
That's very cool, and I love hearing you say the support, because we've done another one of these podcasts recently with UniPrint, and they brought on a customer like yourself, and he said the exact same thing. And I've always said, technology is, I won't say apples and apples, but things are pretty getting close. And what's really separates things is the support you get, right? And so that's really wonderful to hear, because that's, you're echoing the previous customer sentiments. So that's great to hear. You mentioned, problems you had. Can you maybe talk about some of the challenges you had and how you were able to overcome those?
So one of the biggest challenges we had on the terminal servers themselves was the print spooler. The print spooler kept locking up because we had so many jobs going through. The other thing we had was drivers. Every time, we would have three models of HP printers, and we would have drivers for those models. Anytime we modified one of those drivers, it could impact another printer. And so when we tried to fix one problem, we in a sense created more problems for other customers that we were servicing. And when we moved to UniPrint, we were able to remove all of those drivers off of those terminal services. And so we didn't have to deal with drivers anymore. One of the problems that on the business side, that having so many printers and so many issues with printers and print drivers that we were faced with was the need to have almost dedicated people to handle these print problems, these print issues. We lost on our admin side 2 full-time employees just to manage all the printing issues that we had. And when we went to UniPrint, we reclaimed those 2 positions back into the admin role to support the company as a whole, and no longer were they tied to print solutions or print issues. They were able to, re-enter the IT force, I guess, to support the rest of the organization. And I don't even think now we have a single call coming in regarding print issues.
Interesting. Oh, that's awesome. So how did you configure UniPrint? Did you go with like their universal solution, driver solution? Did you completely deal away with, can you explain that process? What does your configuration look like now?
So we're doing a server client solution. We did, so in part and parcel in this was we moved away from terminal services and got onto Citrix. And
that's not next.
We deployed the Citrix receiver and the UniPrint client to the workstations as a bundle. One of the things, again, that was appeasing to us was that we could bundle the UniPrint MSI into a package through SCCM and deploy it that way. And that's how we manage the different UniPrint versions. So right now, we're currently on version 5.2, I believe, and we're going to 5.3. That's in the current bundle, and that's being deployed to our company-wide. The other part was the client, the server side piece. We were able to remove all the printers, all the print queues, all the print drivers, load the server side UniPrint client, so to speak. And now when the users are on Citrix and go to print, they got one option. That's UniPrint. UniPrint then allows them to redirect that print job back to their workstation to something that they're familiar with. They get their printers that they've been using all along in that window. They now know they can print to the desk computer or the desk printer or the printer down the hall or the copier in the next office. That is familiar with them. The problem we had prior to this was there were so many printers that we had. And again, this was pre-Citrix, so we didn't have pass-through printing. We just had all the printers there. So they were seeing all these printers. They had to scroll through to find the printer that they wanted. With UniPrint, that's now removed. They only see the printers that they have on their local desktop that they're familiar with. They know what they're printing, and they get their jobs immediately.
Very cool. Very, very, very cool. That's amazing. Are you guys doing it? That's awesome. Are you guys doing any mobile printing, anything out of the box?
Not yet. I did speak to Arron about the mobile printing solution. We have not gone as far as implementing that. We're still basically in talks right now with the mobile piece. WestRock as a whole is moving into the mobile realm. We're not there yet, so introducing UniPrint would be a little bit premature at this point. But I think that it is a solution that, because we have such a good impact with the server and the workstation side, that introducing UniPrint on the mobile side would be a seamless transition into that environment.
Very cool, very cool. And then you mentioned something I have to, sort of digress and talk about or ask you about. You were TS only. That's very interesting. And you decided to move to Citrix. Can you maybe just, tell us why you describe some, maybe I guess there's a billion reasons, right? But why did you, what was that process like?
The reason we did wasn't anything fancy. WestRock grows by acquisition, and we had acquired a company that had a very large Citrix footprint. We did a like an ROI kind of thing on whether or not we should stay with the Microsoft solution for straight terminal services or go with the Citrix solution that the acquired company had. They had quite a number of seats, far outnumbered what our terminal server footprint was. So we decided that it was easier to move our terminal services into the Citrix environment as opposed to moving the Citrix into our terminal server environment.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Yeah. Are you happy with Citrix? Isn't this just so much nicer?
It is. So, you know, when I say legacy WestRock, you know, with them being on terminal services, they didn't know what Citrix was. And one of the things that we're finding is the more we deploy it and the more that we put applications on it and present it out, the more people are recognizing the ease of use and the accessibility of it. And so it's catching on like wildfire. We're running a good portion of our company on Citrix currently.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you had UniPrint deployed to your TS environment prior to Citrix coming in, correct?
No, we did not. When we moved to Citrix and we had to, you know, more or less expand our, you know, quote unquote terminal services environment, whether it's Citrix or the legacy terminal services environment, we got to the point where we were just completely saturated with printers. That's when we decided we needed to come to a solution that could help us.
Cool. Did you try the Citrix universal driver and without success?
We did. We did pass-through printing with Citrix. We did the universal print driver with Citrix. Again, each time we did that, we found ourselves still in the print management business, and that's not what we wanted. Yeah. We wanted to remove ourselves from it, and UniPrint provided that ability to move away from it.
You know, Matt. That's what I've always said is that you people say printing, and I say, okay, what about printing? They say, well, it doesn't work. I say, okay, you know, what doesn't work? And then they say, well, how do we solve it? And I said, well, you can have two ways to solve it. One, you can manage it, which is an ongoing process, and it doesn't always solve it, but it's you can somewhat manage it. Or you can buy a third-party solution. And when you buy a third-party solution, you can solve the problem. Just, you know, verify which third-party solution works best for you. And so that's great to hear because you're telling me what I've always known to be true. And there's something nice about solving a problem and not managing one, right?
It is, and the best part about it is, it's almost seamless now to the end user. They don't think twice when they go to print in the terminal or Citrix environment. They just use UniPrint. You know, it's just part of what we do.
And do they even know they're using UniPrint, or they just print, right?
For them, they just print. I mean, they know it's UniPrint because the option to print says UniPrint initially, and then it redirects it to their workstation. But I don't think they understand what it is that it does. They just know that, hey, I'm just going to click print, and I get my printers on my desktop. Perfect.
Matt, I have one more question for you, and I know you have a time limit, so I actually have two more questions for you. But if you could maybe throw out there 3 gotchas that you guys ran into that maybe might help someone else that you ran into that you fretted over and then that you solved that maybe you can share with the audience that might help other people in the future.
So I pondered this question before. When you say gotchas, are you saying gotchas with UniPrint or gotchas before we went to UniPrint?
Well, either one, just in general, 3 things that, or it doesn't have to be 3, it could be 1, it'd be 18, 18 would probably be long, but, just things that were related to printing that, just no longer an issue. I guess, though, in general, you've answered this question in many ways because you solved printing. You don't deal with printing issues. Right. Do you deal with printing issues anymore at all?
We don't, not at least not on the terminal server side or the Citrix side. We do have, so there are some gotchas. There are certain printers that have an issue in rendering through UniPrint. But again, we fall back to UniPrint support, and Arron's team has been very supportive with us in working through those problems. So it may be a gotcha, but because they haven't turned their back and they are willing to work with us on it, we're working through that gotcha. Again, with UniPrint, it has solved problems. It hasn't created problems. So all the gotchas we had were prior to using and going to UniPrint. Once we've gone to UniPrint, a lot of that has been removed, and there has not been any real gotchas. I mean, we've been with UniPrint now going on, I want to say close to 5 years, just over 4.5 years, 5 years. And we've only really opened, I think, 2 support cases with UniPrint. It really has been a solution for us that we've not had to go and get, ongoing support through them for problems. There just hasn't been any. It's been a blessing in disguise that, we thought, as you said, a third-party solution will help us. We didn't realize that it was going to solve it for us, and that's what UniPrint's done. It's solved that printing problem for us.
That's awesome. How many printers are you guys managing approximately?
Well, that's a loaded question.
You could say lots if you want. Many.
Yeah. Well, I know we've got over 40,000, desktops and laptops and stuff. And so you could just imagine for each one, we could say maybe one printer. So we have quite a few throughout our environment that, and all of which at some point are connected to Citrix and doing some form of printing through UniPrint.
That's awesome. And in being a paper company, I imagine you guys print a lot.
We do. No, we don't do regular like cardstock or regular stock paper. We do more cardboard packaging. But we do print quite a bit. There is an initiative to not print if not necessary. But in this world that we live in now, you cannot get away with not printing. Technology goes so far, but there are still people that rely on and depend on the printed paper and the signature on that printed paper, or a printed copy that gets passed around. So we still are dependent upon printing.
Matt, that brings me to my last question for you. And that is, do you, and you set me up perfectly in some ways you answered it, but I'm going to ask it as a pointed question. In the next 5 years, we always hear this, paperless world. I have a printer next to me. I run a very virtual business, and I still print quite often. What do you see the next 5 years like, and maybe beyond? Do you ever see a time where we go paperless, or you're able to within, your business? What do you see? Where do you see printing in the future going?
Well, printing, when you say in the industry that we're in with WestRock, printing is printing on cardboard, but printing is also printing on plastic, like bottles, and they have a plastic wrap around those bottles. So there's printing on that. So that's not going to go away. Those hard, concrete, tangible products are not going to go away. Now, talking about printing and straight printing to paper, I can see that diminishing, similar like the way the fax machine and faxing diminished, but it never, the ability to print, not necessarily faxes, but the ability to print I don't think it's going to go away entirely. There's still a need for something tangible to be handed, passed, signed, sealed, delivered, and technology can get us so far, but I don't think it's going to render it completely not necessary in the future. I think within the next 5 years, there still will be a dependency on printed paper.
I agree with that. I mean, anything of size I print out and then I read it, and I'm an iPad junkie, a mobile or reading. I read a lot in print or in digital form. That's the words I'm looking for. But at the end of the day, I prefer paper. I just do. And like he said, you can't really hand out iPads, when you're in a conference room. You want to print those off and hand out the deliverables around. It would be cool if everyone, you walked into a a conference or something, they just gave you an iPad and there was no paper in your thing. But we'd still print, and we always will. When you say printing on cardboard, do you guys is that part of the IT solution, or is that a separate, industry within, a separate thing within your company? And I guess my question more or less is UniPrint helping you print to the cardboard?
No, UniPrint, that's outside of what UniPrint is used for. Now, we do use UniPrint to do like render drawings, like AutoCAD type drawings to print, and then they use that for scale and stuff. But within the actual business side itself, UniPrint is not involved.
I figured that was different. So, but I wanted to ask, Matt, those are my questions I have for you, and I know you have a hard stop, so we'll let you jump. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for sharing your experiences with UniPrint and Citrix and TS and with us today. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I managed to get you off in time, right?
You did. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate your time, and thanks for everyone on the call.
Thank you. Arron, what do you have? I'll throw it at you. We've been talking to Matt for a while. Is there anything to add to that conversation before I start asking you some questions?
Well, I think Matt has always been a very good customer. When I said that, it's like last time I think we did with Sunrise.
Yep.
When customer feedback, we always listen, right? So it helps, and the customer do feedback and provide a chance for us to look at the problem and resolve them. And then we can tune our software to meet the real world, I would say. Because it's always been, we have developed in the back end, think about how things should work, and then we'll push it out and say, okay, let's see how the world reacts. And then we'll find out, oh, no, that's not how they use it. So it's amazing when customer willing to talk to you and actually give you the problem and help you out to resolve it. And we love those customers. And Matt is like one of them that's been helping us to improve our software in that way.
That's awesome. I mean, I've always said we're better together, right? And you're never, learn something by being right. Feedback is a great thing as long as it's given to you constructively and nicely, But feedback is a wonderful thing, and it helps you, it helps them, it helps everybody, right? It's a great thing, and what's neat is I've heard this a couple times about you guys, actually more than that you guys are just absolutely great with support, and that's great too. Arron, do you remember by chance any problems you might have had with WestRock, if I could spit that out? And how you were able to solve those? Do you have any anecdotes, any memories of those?
Well, I know we are trying, like that. They have a huge backend that does, I think JD work or something, like a backend that does the majority of the manufacturing stuff. We were just a portion that helped when the report are doing kind of client server type scenario. I think it's actually quite smooth, the rollout. I think they start to deploy us a little bit more on some of the label printing. Like the manufacturing printing is quite different than office printing.
Yeah, completely.
We take the office side printing. I think they actually are moving towards actually using us to also print some labels and barcodes and stuff. I think there might be some rendering issue there at a certain manufacturing printer that they have. I wasn't 100% involved in there, but that's the only one that I remember. The rest of the rollout are very smooth. They have minor configuration and stuff issue, but that all got resolved when they hit our help desk.
Awesome. And what's it like to contact the help desk? So can you like if we have a problem, what can you describe that experience?
Yeah, we had a policy here. I don't know whether we mentioned it before. Our software is totally free in that sense. You're welcome to download it off the web. It's the fully production version. And so we encourage people to try our software. The only thing that obviously we need to license it. So the only thing that throw up when you get this new, install our software without a license is they put a watermark on everything that you print. But it doesn't stop you from looking at the print job, making sure everything is working, it's passing through, the speed is okay, it's compatible with your driver and all that. And then when you're really happy with the software, then you buy. So our support is always, I think, is let us have a chance to prove to you before you buy that it's working, so that our after support will be a lot less. And that's been our philosophy all this while, and it worked well with customer. You don't want to, spend a couple of $10,000 on a package and find out it doesn't work for you, right?
I have a couple more questions for both of you guys, and I want to, like I said earlier, I want to dive into some of the things that Arron had mentioned and Sagnik has mentioned also that we haven't talked about before. So, Arron, one of the things you mentioned was auditing. Can you talk a bit about what it's like to, or what auditing type of features you guys bring to the table with printing?
Yeah, well, we had it got two form. We had a statistic module, and that's basically let you have basically a database, and then you keep track of everybody's print jobs. You know how many pages they print, which application it came from, who is printing it, which printer it print to. Did it actually get print or not? Because we have the option not to. So there's the keeping track of all that. You can turn it on and have it to the, know so that you can do cost reductions and figure out which printer is not being used that often, redeploy it, all that stuff that gives you an overview of your printing infrastructure and its demand on the printing and a load. And then you can turn on what we call the auditing. Now, not everybody really need to. I mean, a lot of company out there don't really care about the print job being printed from where and who. But for some financial industry, even healthcare, government, some area of government, the more secure area of government, they tend to wanted to have some kind of auditing trail. And what our auditing software allows you to do is to archive every single print job that everybody prints through our system.
Interesting.
Because our system is PDF based, those print jobs is actually searchable. And so some company, like a financial company, could turn this archiving on and then keep all the print jobs forever. So that if there's 3 years later, you face, hey, there is some leak of, something, you can go back and find out whether the leak is actually come from printing. Like someone actually printed that document and gave it to someone. You can actually see, like, hey, how come Arron had printed all this visa number 3 years ago? And so you can actually turn that on and have an audit trail of print job. Because right now you can have audit trail on email, you can have audit trails on documents being transferred, but there is not a lot of audit trail on printing side of things, and so UniPrint can provide that.
Very cool, very cool. That's I can see that coming in very handy for for corporations that are like you mentioned. That's very interesting. Next area I want to talk about is mobile printing. So mobile is mobile. It's here. It's only growing. I am sitting looking at two phones on my desk and an iPad in front of me, and from time to time I actually print off these guys, which is strange for me, but I do it. And can you talk a bit about, Arron, just mobile printing in general, what you guys bring to the table, maybe some of the challenges around mobile printing that companies are facing today, things like that?
Sure. I have to split mobile printing in two areas just because the way that mobile device nowadays work. One will be like mobile Citrix or like an iPad doing a Citrix or terminal server session running a desktop in the back end or an application in the back end. Yep. That's really not mobile printing, right? That's really just desktop printing. So obviously we can handle it. But in that scenario, the biggest challenge everybody have is where the heck is that user? So I'm a medical profession. I run this medical app on my Citrix into a area back end, but the back end application really have no clue where you are, whether you're on the first floor, whether you're in New York, whether you're in China, and so our application need to detect where you are and then redirect the print job. So that is one of the big challenge in terms of mobile device using Citrix type or terminal server type or virtualized type desktop application. That answer your question, that's just the first part.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the second part?
That, and I'll move to the second kind of mobile scenario where printing is actually native. I have my email, I'm opening my iPad, I read it, and for some reason I really need to print. That part is supporting a mobile device. And there's multiple standards. Right now I can see 3 or 4 of them. One is obviously iPad, the big guy, Apple, and they basically said AirPrint. You're not AirPrint, you're not allowed to print. So obviously our software now is AirPrint certified. It's a long process, but we did it. So now our driver, you can basically print to a printer by enabling that printer through our software AirPrint. Then you can basically print from your iOS devices. The second major operating system is Android. Obviously now we have a plugin for Android to allow them to print Android natively from an email application or native application to a UniPrint system and allow you to retrieve the print job. The third kind of mobile people are Windows OS and also BlackBerry. The window we can handle, not a problem at all. BlackBerry, we just kind of resolved to what we call an email to print solution. You have a PDF file, your Word document, you have an Excel document you want to print. You can then email to a printer that's predefined in our system, and then you'll be able to retrieve your print to that particular printer. So does that answer your question? Because there's two scenarios in that.
You bet it does. Sagnik, you also mentioned Zen Mobile, that they're working with Zen Mobile. Can you expand upon that? What do you mean?
Yeah, basically our application is certified in Zen Mobile. You can then take, Zen Mobile is a management device, so you can insert our application, remove our application, allow them to print or not allow them to print. So in Zen Mobile, most of the management are done as desktop user anyway. So it's already part and parcel of UniPrint.
Yep.
So the certification part comes in to allow us to they have control over removing ours and insert our application into the Zen Mobile.
Cool. Sagnik, are there any gotchas when you deal with Zen Mobile printing that you guys have run into?
Not a lot.
No, not really, because I wouldn't say a lot because as Arron mentioned, it's kind of like a desktop more than which UniPrint has been doing from quite a while. So it has been very smooth, and they support the Apple AirPrint for Citrix iPad sessions as well, like I mentioned. So everything's pretty smooth.
Cool.
The only catcher,
Arron, you'd like to add something? Yeah.
Sorry. The only catcher I see is we recommend not to publish all your printer for mobile devices. Likely just to publish something like a VPQ, the virtual print queue, so that because detecting a mobile user is so hard, where they are in a building, for instance, it's easiest two things. Instead of just think of it when you on your mobile device and you say, I want to print. First, you have to find the right printer. And that's a challenge because I don't know where you are. So if I present you with 2,000 printer, you're not going to be happy picking one, and likely you're going to pick a wrong one. So what we tell people a lot of time is just when you do mobile printing, just present them with their personal print queue, the VPQ that UniPrint provides, and then let them retrieve the print job using the VPad or even the mobile device that they have, because we have now a mobile application that allows you to walk close to the printer based on a barcode on the printer or an iBeacon or NFC. Then I know where you are, then I can release a print job. So the catcher is detecting where you are is the biggest headache, and the best solution from UniPrint point of view is just publish your VPQ so people can retrieve the print job whenever they want. I hope that makes sense.
It really does. It really does. That's a very good point, Arron. That's a really good point. I love it. So, guys, we're coming to we're pretty much done, but I do want to ask you the question about I want to ask you about the future, right? I always ask about the future. So, Arron, what do you see? Mobile is definitely becoming more important. What do you see? What's your view on printing over the next 5 years? Where do you see it going? Will we still need paper?
I mean, there's definitely printing will become less and less. I would see less and less, but not totally disappearing. You can see the trend. You don't print PowerPoint as much as you used to anymore, because there's people who can view it on the mobile device. It's really tied to how well the hardware can represent a page. I mean, you like to print. I shouldn't say I like to print. I like to read from a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And that's just because of convenience. It's easier to read. I can carry a piece of paper and I can throw it away. I don't lost my iPad. So until the hardware able to kind of mimic that part, printing is still going to be around, where it's the easiest way for me to pass in some information to my mom, for instance, who doesn't have an iPad, and how am I going to give him the piece of document that is digital? So it's still kind of common standard, lowest common standard for me to get information to someone. But hardware catching up. I mean, now who don't have an iPhone or a smartphone, I should say, that work in the technology field, or even most people, my kid have an iPhone. I mean, so 10 years old have an iPhone. Everybody have an iPhone nowadays. So they don't print anymore. And I think eventually printing will disappear. And UniPrint are well positioned, I think, just because we have everything digital anyway, to turn people from paper to digitized paper, or printerless. I don't know. I don't even know that right term. But somewhere along the way, there will be a paradigm shift where there will be people printing less and reading more from their iPad or iPhone or mobile device.
Interesting. Now, like you said, you guys are already doing that. How if a company came to you or an existing customer and they said, okay, we've been mandated to go paperless in 5 years. Can you help us do that, Mr. UniPrint?
Oh, definitely. We definitely can, because we already had everything in digital. Internet archiving basically gives you a good way of digitizing everything that you print. And the advantage, obviously, when you print something, you lock it down. You now have a hard version of it digitized, so you can't change it on that digital copy, and you can lock it up. So it gives you that flexibility. And there is company and that we work with that use our software to store instead of actually printing something. Email instead of, our facility allows you to email, to save, and print. It's part and parcel of UniPrint.
So really, you're just saying instead of printing it to paper, we printed it to an electronic document, and then we pass that document along and then archive that, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just sort of business as usual. It just, instead of, when it going out to a print queue, a paper print queue, it goes out to a digital print queue.
We already had that, and you can even, like as we're saying, there's a lot of people can basically email a quote instead of print a quote and then send it to someone. You can just print through us and say email it to a customer. So you save yourself all that printing and then faxing or whatever that is. So we are well positioned to help people or company to go paperless.
I love it. Sagnik, anything to add?
No, I think Arron has summed it up very well. I'm aware from the Citrix point of view, how the issues that customers brought up when it comes to printing, like session printers intermittently not creating print jobs, this kind of thing. And really, UniPrint has solved all the problems. So by unifying the single console and bringing that universal printer driver together. So, the problem generally customers have is supporting all these separate different kind of printer drivers. I mean, of course, the Citrix Ready printer drivers that's there on the marketplace are generally work, but there are many small-time vendors, and not always customers find a seamless experience. And UniPrint helps us achieve that already, and I'm looking forward to work with them on the upcoming version releases.
Okay, guys, I have one more question for you, and this is always my last question. That is, if somebody wants to learn more, what do they need to do?
Well, if you want to learn more about UniPrint, just go to www.uniprint.net, and you should find everything that you wanted to find out about UniPrint there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, Arron.
Okay, so that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As always, I want to thank my guests for today, Arron and Matt and Sagnik, for a great show, for a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot, and I hope you guys did too, and I hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, please tell a friend. That's how we grow DABCC Radio. And most importantly, head on over to uniprint.net and check out what these guys are doing. And what I really like about uniprint.net is this resounding theme of great support. And it's interesting when I talk to people about vendors, because there's a lot of technologies out there that are just stellar technologies, and we'll be talking about it, and then someone will say, yes, it is great tech, but the support sucks. And when the support sucks, well, that matters. And UniPrint has great support. So I think you guys really like it. And what else do I say? But thank you for listening to DABCC Radio. Please head over to our brand new, rebuilt from the ground up website. I think you guys are going to love it. It's really, really great. It's fast. It's easy. Every day we're pumping in great content. It's your source for really waking up and finding out what's going on in the world. And we have a mobile app coming out soon, updated one from our very old one back in 2010. And just waiting for it to get submitted. So on that note, what do I say? But thank you guys. Head on over to DABCC. Head on over to uniprint.net and have a great day. Thank you for listening to DABCC Radio.
Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.